Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the growing threat against Christian and conservative groups. It's called DeBanking, where some organizations can be denied financial services. We're going to bring you some examples of how this has already happened. Helping survivors of human trafficking will show you how Regent University is providing legal help so victims in Virginia can clear their records. Recovery and rebuilding in Morocco after that massive earthquake. We're going to take you to a remote where Operation Blessing is helping with disaster relief. And we'll see how one volunteer is helping after losing his own brother in the quake. And an unexpected salvation and baptism. A worship service at a major university turns into evangelism as some 200 people get baptized and their lives are given to the Lord. All those stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
And let's begin this half hour with an increasing threat to Christian and conservative groups as they are facing a new kind of discrimination. Banks are closing their accounts, turning off payment processors, and putting some on a donor blacklist. What's even more troubling is that these actions are carried out under the cover of our federal banking laws. CBN's Dale Hurd reports on what's behind this growing trend.
Banking has become weaponized. Christian and conservative groups are labeled high risk and then debanked or denied financial services. Among the victims, Indigenous Advanced Ministries, which helps orphans and widows in Africa. Its account closed by Bank of America. Family Council of Arkansas, which works to promote traditional family values, canceled by J.P. Morgan Chase. And the Pro-Family Ruth Institute. It lost its payment processor after it was targeted by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group.
The office manager received an email saying, "We're not going to do business with you anymore." She went right then and looked at our bank account, and it was gone. The credit card processing was gone.
And what qualified the Ruth Institute as an alleged hate group?
The dream of the Ruth Institute is that every child be welcomed into a loving home with their own mother and father married to each other.
Even the National Committee for Religious Freedom, a multi-faith organization headed by former U.S. Senator and Religious Freedom Ambassador Sam Brownback, had its bank account closed by J.P. Morgan Chase.
I went in to make a deposit at a branch here in Kansas about 3 or 4 weeks after we'd opened up the account, I think. And the teller there said, that account's been closed. I go, what? I said, yeah, it's that account's been closed. Your funds will be being sent to you in a couple of weeks.
Banking expert Nick Anthony says federal law gives banks a myriad of excuses to cancel groups whose values present what's termed reputational risks. He adds the real culprits may also be federal regulators who can pressure banks to cancel certain groups.
Banks are deputized as de facto law enforcement investigators, and they face a very real consequence of missing anything. When banks have concerns about money laundering or suspicious source of funds, or they don't like where the funds are going for any reason, they're prohibited from telling customers what the actual reason is. They're prohibited from telling people that they filed these reports to the government and now something has gone awry.
That said, Anthony believes the law is also being used as cover to cancel groups banks don't like. Sam Brownback would later learn that J.P. Morgan Chase canceled his group after designating him as a politically exposed person with a customer risk profile, a designation that's only supposed to be applied to foreign nationals, not former U.S. senators. Nevertheless, J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon said no apologies are necessary. It's no secret that corporate boardrooms are under pressure from liberal groups to push DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which includes the LGBTQ agenda. The most powerful investment firm in the world, BlackRock, has stated that LGBT diversity is in their DNA. And nearly every major credit card issuer has openly donated money to the LGBTQ cause, a cause most conservative faith groups oppose.
The profit motive is not their only motive anymore. The people who are choosing the regulatory process are people who have a vision for family life in America, for human sexuality, and they're using their power to create a world in their own image.
Bank of America, which closed Indigenous Advanced Ministries accounts, said religious beliefs are not a factor in any account closing decision, but that it was because of a side business of debt collection services run by the ministry. While we found an instance where a liberal group was debanked, most have been conservative or faith groups. After his experience, Brownback started a website called Chased Away, so others like him could share their story.
You ought to be able to be a Christian if you want to, and use whatever bank you want to and not be excluded based on your values or peacefully practicing your faith.
Unfortunately, Anthony expects the debanking trend to continue until Congress finally changes the banking laws to protect people of faith. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Turning now to some other important stories in the news we're following for you at this hour. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has offered a deal to avoid a government shutdown. Bloomberg reports he wants an 8% spending cut for domestic agencies and the resumption of construction of the border wall. The speaker discussed the plan with congressional Republicans in a conference call Sunday night. A vote on the deal is planned for Thursday. McCarthy also says House Republicans will subpoena Hunter Biden at some point. He says it's mainly a matter of timing, telling Fox News they are following the facts and that it looks like a culture of corruption in the Biden family. And Iran and the U.S. will exchange prisoners today after $6 billion in Iranian assets are freed up. But tensions won't be lowered between the two countries, as Iran is now enriching uranium closer than ever to weapons-grade levels. The massive earthquake in Morocco has faded from the headlines now after nearly 3,000 have died. Survivors are working on rebuilding after the devastating disaster, and amid the damage, many remote areas are extremely difficult to reach. But as Chris Mitchell reports, CBN's Operation Blessing made a perilous journey to help those in need, including one volunteer who's helping with disaster relief after he lost his own brother in the quake.
Many of the roads to remote villages in the mountains of Morocco had been impassable for days. The Operation Blessing team convoy had to stop at times so heavy machinery could clear the roads, with the danger of rock slides possible at any moment. As we drew closer to the epicenter, we witnessed increasing destruction and thousands of people living in tents on the side of the road. When we got to the village itself, we saw a bird's-eye view of the extent of the destruction. After a 5-hour ride, one flat tire, and several stops along the way because of rock slides, Operation Blessing's team made it here to this remote village on its mission of mercy to bring hope and help.
We're one of the few first one, to arrive here in this couple days that the earthquake happened. So we are very happy that we made it. We made amazing connections here to support these villages that are unreached in this point. And we're bringing vital supplies, food, water, solar lamp. There's no electricity here. We're here because we can show the love of Christ, first of all, as you know.
This is one of the thousands of buildings that were destroyed or damaged by the earthquake. You can see how destructive it really was. This one is personal because the brother of one of the Operation Blessing volunteers died in this place. Rashid looked through the house where his brother had died.
This is the place where he died, and we're really heartbroken. The only thing he left is his sandal. The people here don't have anything. Everything was destroyed. So you see the people gathering and helping each other in these villages. Not only my brother died, but many others died too.
In all, 47 people in the village died, including a pregnant woman.
This is what God puts in our heart, just to go and help these people. And I'm really probably meet with you guys and be working together. It's just a blessing for us to have you here with us.
I want to thank Rashid for opening his village, his house, so we can come and help you guys. We are with him and your families in this very difficult time of sadness.
I love to be a part of Operation Blessing. This is what God put in my heart to help these people.
This help is made possible by those supporting Operation Blessing.
So we say really thank you and God bless you guys, and we're just really happy to have you with us because we need you now.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, at the village of Tagantef, Morocco.
And you can learn more about what Operation Blessing is doing and how you can help by visiting ob.org. Coming up, She was forced to do drugs, steal, and hurt others. She was a sex trafficking victim who had no choice. And after she was rescued, she faced a 4-year sentence for prostitution. Now see how Regent University is helping her and others in the fight to be seen as not criminals, but as victims. We're going to bring you that story when we come back.
Hi, I'm Terry Mewson, and I'm here to tell you how the CBN animated Bible series Superbook is transforming the lives of millions of children around the world. Your help is urgently needed because it's during these critical years of childhood that most people make their lifelong decision to follow Jesus. You can be part of this critical mission with a gift of any amount. As a special thank you, you'll receive the complete Superbook Season 1 DVD set. Go to cbn.com/share the gospel.
Regent University is getting involved in the fight against human trafficking by helping survivors get a fresh start. The Law School Center for Global Justice is providing victims in Virginia legal help to clear their record thanks to a new state law. Abigail Robertson brings us the story.
While some victims of human trafficking may eventually find freedom from their traffickers, the legal charges of prostitution and many other forced crimes follow them the rest of their lives.
I had to do drugs, which meant I had to possess drugs, which is illegal. I had to steal. I had to hurt other people sometimes, other women, because if I didn't, I didn't know what he would do to me.
Olivia first became a trafficking victim at 18 years old. Her boyfriend turned abusive and demanded she make money by selling herself for sex.
On an average, I probably saw 20 dates a night. There was a quota. I had to make a certain amount every day, and if I didn't make it, there was no food, no sleep, no nothing until I made it.
Olivia says he then tried to kill her when she got pregnant with his child. Feeling desperate, she called her mom from a Boston hospital. That led to a train ticket to Virginia to escape her abuser. However, her freedom was short-lived.
My first trafficker made me believe that I wasn't good for anything else. You know, you're never going to get a real job. Nobody's going to ever want to hire you. You're a prostitute. Nobody's going to want you. And I believed it. So even when I was on my own, I still prostituted.
Vulnerable, homeless, and addicted to drugs, a new trafficker found Olivia and promised to take care of her as long as she did what he asked.
When you have a trafficker, you got to give them everything. There is no, I get to keep a little for myself or control my own money. There technically was no leaving.
Olivia tells CBN News she often hoped to get arrested for prostitution so she could get out of her situation. While that wish eventually came true, it resulted in a 4-year prison sentence on charges including prostitution and drug possession.
I'm not a prostitute. Really, I'm a human trafficking victim. And I didn't know that for a very long time, I thought because I did it on my own sometimes that it was because I wanted to, or that was just how I had to live. But I was trained in my brain to think that way, to think that there was no other way to live.
2 years ago, Regent University helped get a law passed in Virginia that agrees, viewing Olivia and others like her as victims, not criminals.
Human trafficking, by its nature, is using force, fraud, coercion, manipulation. It is exploitation of another and forcing them to commit an array of crimes.
The center recently launched a clinic to provide survivors with the legal help needed to file petitions to have their records expunged. Olivia is their first victory.
It became clear that this could be the piece that we bring to the puzzle, that survivors have access to this law but don't know about it.
The center launched a clinic 2 months ago to provide survivors with the legal help needed to file petitions to have their records expunged. Olivia is their first victory.
This relief is significant. It is helping survivors like Olivia clear criminal convictions that they don't deserve to have on their record. They didn't have the intent to commit these crimes. And so even when they exit human trafficking, they may be physically free from the predator, the trafficker. this criminal record goes with them.
The clinic also connected with a local law firm to train attorneys on the law, human trafficking, and trauma-informed lawyering.
God is moving. You know, our enemy prowls around like a roaring lion, but we have the actual Lion of Judah with us. We get to pray and research and advocate from a place of victory.
While not all of Olivia's record is clean, she tells CBN News she's relieved her most embarrassing charge is erased.
Forget the record being gone. Just knowing that they realize that we're victims and not criminals is probably the best part about the entire thing.
And she's hopeful Virginia's law expands one day to clear other charges.
People think they know what human trafficking is, but I don't think they realize the extent of it. It's not just prostitution. It's not just, you know, selling sex. It's anything. And that's how I got my record. You know, I got it from being trafficked.
The clinic not only helps survivors, it's providing Regent Law students real-life experience with human rights and anti-trafficking work.
God loves stories of beauty from ashes, of redemption and restoration and forgiveness and new life. And we hope at Regent Law to inspire a generation of attorneys who are going to walk with people in the midst of those stories as an advocate for people in those stories. And I can't think of a better way to do that than this new human trafficking clinic.
Moving forward, Regent hopes to scale up the number of victims they're able to help through this clinic. And they're even planning to bring Olivia on as an official part of the team as they work with more survivors. Reporting from Regent University, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
If you're a victim of sex trafficking and you have prostitution convictions on your Virginia criminal record, you may qualify for record relief. To find out, contact the Center for Global Justice Clinic. You can call 757-352-4660 or email cgcclinic@regent.edu with your contact information, and they will follow up with you. And if you'd like to find out more about what Regent is doing to fight trafficking and to help victims get a new start, simply go online to theglobaljustice.regent.edu. That will give you information about Regent Center for Global Justice, opportunities for students, and much more. Still ahead, miraculous stories of survival from those deadly wildfires in Maui. We're going to hear what these Hawaiians had to say about how they survived. The story's coming up. Stay with us. Nearly 6 weeks after wildfires ravaged the town of Lahaina on the Hawaiian island of Maui, officials say 31 people are still missing. As Wendy Griffith reports, survivors are still amazed about their narrow escape from what looked like certain death.
Of everyone I interviewed in Maui, the one thing they all had in common was that if they had waited even 5 minutes longer to leave their homes, they would not have survived.
And I saw smoke coming toward our house, so I called my wife. She was home alone. I told her to get out of there.
36-year-old videographer David Phelps saw the smoke racing toward his Lahaina home as he headed to pick up his kids from school.
At this point, we didn't know how bad it was, so I didn't know what to tell her. I felt completely helpless. I had my 2 children with me. I didn't know if I should go back in the fire so it was really traumatic.
Meanwhile, heavy traffic had pinned in David's wife, Marissa, leaving her nowhere to go.
Oh, my God.
She calls me, her car is getting enveloped with smoke, she's crying. My wife is not a dramatic person, so I knew it was serious. Luckily, someone in front of her went up on the sidewalk and she just followed him out and she got out and thank God.
It wasn't until later they realized Marissa's miracle of survival.
Our friend's parents were 10 minutes behind her. They didn't make it and they died from smoke inhalation, yeah. And they were just minutes behind her. That could have been her.
36-year-old Dustin Dudois and his family also found themselves in danger.
The wind pushed so hard I could feel the heat as if the fire was next to me, but it was a block away.
By the time Dustin pulled away from his house, the fire engulfed homes on his street. He and his family narrowly escaped.
It was pretty much like a bag of clothes, and my wife grabbed, I think, the documents, and then, yeah, that was it. Everything else was just ashes.
Since the fire, David posted a video on Instagram capturing the moment hundreds of surfers took part in a paddle-out ceremony to remember the victims of Lahaina. One of his collaborators said making the video was crazy therapy and that hope and community is the only thing keeping us going right now.
I've heard people asking, like, where is God in all this? Like, he's here. I see it. Like, I see it in everyone's faces that's helping. I see it in everyone in this church. Like, he's fully here. I've never believed so much in my life.
Getting me back in the water, doing what I love.
Dustin, a self-described fishing addict, lost all of his fishing gear in the fire. When Operation Blessing heard about his plight, they stepped in with brand new fishing spears and fins.
That's when I talk to God the most, is when I'm diving, you know. I really do. It's like just in my head and, you know, just kind of, it's like my church. Give me some sort of a normalcy, I guess, you know. So I'm very thankful for Operation Blessing.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Maui.
Coming up, it started out as a gathering for worship and turned into an evangelistic event. We're going to tell you what happened at Auburn University in Alabama. When we come back, stay with us.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel Live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
Thousands of students at Auburn University came together for a night of worship and praise. One student wanted to be baptized, and before the end of the gathering last week, that number grew to about 200 people who decided to give their lives to Christ. With no tub to baptize students, the crowd of thousands headed over to a lake at Auburn's Red Barn. Even head football coach Hugh Freeze got in the water to help. It is quite a story, and you can find the amazing details at cbnnews.com. We'll also have more coverage in the days ahead. Time now for your Monday motivation, and today's motivation is this. The past is the past. Let it pass and press past its hold on you. God has more in store. It's time to move forward. In the words of a familiar worship tune, not going back, moving ahead. Here to declare to you, my past is over in you. All things are made new. Surrendered my life to Christ. I'm moving forward. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online at cbnnews.com. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com, and reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make it a marvelous Monday. Join us right back here tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.